The Hogsty is brought to you by TicketClub.com, your one-stop shop for live events nationwide. Whether you're looking for game, theater, or live performance tickets, don't sweat it. TicketClub.com has you covered. So make sure you're going there for all your live entertainment needs, and make sure you're clicking over to them from the banner at the top of thehogsty.com.
By fans, for fans, the Hog Style. And now, here's your host, Sean Conti.
Grammys, Tonys, Academy Oscars. These are the awards given to the best in entertainment. But today you're listening to moderately well-liked podcast, The Hogsty, which is DC's unofficial leading source for all things Redskins and the NFL. My name's Sean Conti, and I've got Steve, Thomas, Alexis, and Jamal Forrest all here today to talk a little Redskins. How y'all doing this morning?
I'm most excited about the fact that it sounds like you just said we're up for an award of some type, and that makes me happy. It feeds my ego.
I brought up a bunch of awards and then mentioned us, so that's kind of a
No, see, I missed that part. I thought you were saying we were nominated for an Emmy or something, and that would have been a good thing. Is there a podcast?
There is a podcasting award. I think it's called the Potties.
The Potties? That is a really bad awards name, Alex. Okay, well, we are here obviously in another not super jam-packed week in terms of Redskins news. We're still struggling through this slow part of the year. But one thing I can say for sure, guys, is there's been a ton of negativity around the league. But the Redskins have been involved with some charitable giving. So why don't we start there today? What good things are Redskins players doing for the world?
Well, first of all, thankfully, Jameis Winston is not a Redskin because, he's been in the news with bad things, doing bad things. And I'm really glad we don't have to deal with that.
Can we just mention that real quick? Sure. What is that guy's damage?
What's his damage?
Anybody got an answer to that?
Does he have brain damage? Is that what you're asking?
I'm wondering if that's the reason. This guy's a buffoon.
He's going through some things, man. I don't know how far we wanted to talk about it, but
go ahead.
I think the thing is, it is 2016 though. This thing happened 2 years ago, from what I understand. So it's like I understand people want to get upset. My biggest beef was, I just randomly saw it on NFL Live the other day. Before I stepped out of the room, just somebody, the Damian Woody, that's his name, Damian Woody. He was just talking like how frustrated he was with him and how the Bucks need to cut him, all these type of things, the long lines of that. And I'm just like, I understand that you're upset. This happened 2 years ago. It's hard to get frustrated at a person like, yes, they're investigating and something happened, and they say it's a continuing pattern, but how is it continuous if it happened 2 years ago? So You can't say it's continuous. It's a period where 2017 and 2018, there were no incidents between him and law enforcement or any reported things that I'm aware of, at least, or that many are aware of. So I was just frustrated that people had so much issue with him, knowing that he was struggling in the past, and this happened to be 2016.
Oh, that's a good point, Jamal, because 2016 was around the time when his other sort of behavioral issues were being discussed. So it sounds like this is just another thing coming from that era. You're right in terms of more recent charges. It doesn't seem
the one before that was his senior year of college, which would have been 2014, where he was accused of rape. So that to me, that's it's 2 years ago, but this dude has a pattern of doing things to women that just don't seem okay at best.
Yeah. I think part of what Damian Woody was suggesting was that there's a lot of other players who've drank alcohol and they seem to avoid being, having to grope people.
And he's absolutely right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a drinker, but you guys are drinkers, and I haven't heard any of the three of you grope people who don't want to be groped. For example, alcohol is not an excuse. That was part of what well, it's not legally, it's not an excuse. And so, I mean, there is a pattern of behavior, but Jamal has a good point, which is that, in the two intervening years, there hasn't been an issue. So maybe he really has turned his life around. I mean, he said in his apology that he's not drinking anymore. And if that's what he needs to do and he's keeping up, he's sticking to that, good for him. I don't think I wouldn't cut him if I were the Bucks. I think that's a bit of an overreaction.
I might not re-sign him next year. I mean, this is his last year of the contract.
Maybe. But yeah,
depends on how desperate they are.
Well, they're pretty desperate. So I don't know. I mean, I can see it both ways.
I just rather like I said, I understand like it's when you're dealing with women and you have potential, you have major issues in the past. I'm laughing at that message that you sent, Steve. But yeah, when you have those issues in the past, I understand. But like I personally, if you're changing your life, the Bucks will know that. We don't know that from the outside, so giving an opinion from as if it happened like recently, that's the only viewpoint that I see the problem with. Yes, you can judge him on his past transgressions, but what has he done since then? I think we have to take that into account too. But
I mean, look, he's a knucklehead. Okay, he is a knucklehead. But I mean, you're right. Maybe he's just matured, too late. Later than most. I mean, he's growing up. To me, if I were the Bucks, I would make most note of the fact that his statistically at least he's getting better. I know everybody thinks he's terrible, but he actually had a quarterback rating of 92.3 last year.
You could do worse than Winston.
Yeah, you could do worse than Winston. That doesn't mean they should re-sign him to a big contract, but I mean, I think they give him a year or two to see, and if nothing else stupid happens, let's let it go. That would be my vote if I were the Bucks.
They could always give him a 5-year option too. So
yeah, I mean, this option is $20 million, but it's only 1 year, and so I would give him 2 years to see if he gets better. If I were the Buccaneers, and I would put this behind us.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that, Steve. We'll have to see. I mean, I understand the difficulty of the situation because when something else comes up from the past, it's like, well, how do you really deal with that? How do you address that? It's a tough situation to navigate. But I think I'm pretty much with you, Steve.
Yeah.
Well, let's get away from negativity then. I'm sorry I took us down that rabbit hole, and let's stick to some positivity. So the Redskins are doing good things in the world, right, guys? Some charity money is being raised. Who's doing it, and for what causes?
Well. Bad guy. We have our own
Mr.
version.
Guys.
Yeah, we have a bad guy on our roster apparently. Darius Geis, and of course he's proved to be the exact opposite of bad. Darius, he's done everything good, from taking fans to the movies to charities and everything else. The man is just really enjoying life right now, and I applaud that. But he raised $21,000 for a cancer center this week. The Mary Bird Perkins Cancer Center in Baton Rouge. He had a bowling night, if you paid a certain amount to the cancer charity, you could bowl with him. He offered to play a game of Fortnite, which is an online video game that, all the kids are playing now.
It's the death of society for anyone who doesn't know.
Pretty much it is. If you donate a certain amount. So he's done a lot of good. And this week it was $21,000 for a cancer center.
Very nice.
Yeah, so I definitely applaud him for that. It's just so impressive to see a kid like this. He's not in the news for being out in the club too late and throwing $100 bills at strippers. He's in the news because he's raising money for cancer and he's interacting with fans and everything else. It's just amazing to me how completely and totally wrong these critics were about Geis. They completely blew it in every way about this kid. So there's a lot of sports writers that should be ashamed of themselves right now, I think.
Well, and I don't think you'll ever see him in those club situations because he said that, he's a homebody. That's his personality, which, that's fine by me.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take that any day of the week. So I'm asking because I genuinely don't know. How, common is it for a rookie or a guy who has just been drafted to get really active in charity and start foundations? I mean, I know it's something that players do really commonly because, they make big salaries and they set up their own foundations and et cetera. But for a new player in the league, how common is it?
How often do you see rookies in the news? How often do you see rookies in the news raising money for cancer centers? Have you heard of any other player in the NFL?
I'm trying to think of. I can't really.
I mean, but the truth is, the most of them are focused on football. They've gone crazy and they're in the clubs and all that stuff, or they're football. I mean, there's not many of them that you hear about or doing what Geis is doing. Raising all this money. I mean, I think it's just very rare, and it speaks to the character he has that everybody thought he didn't have. And it also just shows that, I mean, I think he's very thankful. I think he's very thankful that he got out of his situation through his own personal hard work, and he's trying to give back. I'm so impressed by him so far.
The thing about it that impresses me even more, thinking about it, is how's he doing this? And he doesn't have the first round money. He's a second round pick. He's probably making $1 million this year.
I'll tell you in just a second. Keep talking.
I can understand it if you get like a $5 million rookie contract, that $5 million a year range, you can do something with that. But, if you look at what these guys get later on, it's not nearly as much. So that's what's even more impressive.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine, I don't know the specifics of this event necessarily, but I hate to be cynical, but it seems like, to your point, Alex, players that are making a big fat check might be able to throw a bunch of money at a cause. It's a great thing. I'm not going to knock it, but they probably get to write it off on their taxes or whatever, et cetera. Someone like him, he didn't do that, obviously, because he didn't make the fat check yet. So he is most likely just organized this event and probably put more logistical effort in organizing this, which is a better thing. I mean, that's more effort and more impressive to me than someone who just writes a check.
I wouldn't be surprised if he had help personally, especially with doing things down in Louisiana, where he's from. So he'll probably have a lot of help, even if he didn't have the funds to sponsor it. And so
first of all, the guy's not poor. Okay, I mean, he signed a $4.5 million contract, $2.4 million guaranteed at signing. Usually,
I didn't know that actually.
Well, yeah, but usually how these work is that the signing bonuses are prorated out, and so he probably got a pretty fat check. He probably got a fourth of that, would be my guess, at signing. So he probably has a check for, between maybe more than a fourth. So he probably has a check for somewhere around $800,000 to $1 million.
Which not a nice amount of money. It certainly can be set up pretty well, but you can't just suddenly go off and donate $100,000 of that to charity and not blink at least.
Oh yeah, I agree. Yeah. It's a sacrifice. Even if you're making a fat check, it's a sacrifice.
He's certainly not, he doesn't have $20 million, by any stretch of the imagination. No.
But he will after he has a 400 touchdown year for us.
400.
400.
Yeah, that's right. Book it now, guys. Write it down that I said it. Okay, so that's the thing the Redskins will do. They'll
give us 2 rings this year.
Yeah.
2 rings.
2 rings in one season.
We'll score 400 goals touchdowns on the ground during the regular season.
Sean's been watching too much World Cup.
I know, exactly. And then get eliminated in the first round.
Okay, so if you want to know, Geis' base salary this year is $480,000. The signing bonus was prorated. The signing bonus is $1.38 million, prorated over 4 years, and so his chunk of the signing bonus he just got was $345,000, and so he's, that's basically it.
I mean, it's a nice salary. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, but it's not.
Right.
Yeah. So, all right. Anyway,
he's doing a very heavy workload with what is a modest salary.
Right. Relatively speaking.
Yeah.
Okay, who else? Somebody else is involved in doing the good deeds for the world, guys, right? Can't just be guys.
No, the other guy is the guy who has the $20 million salary.
And he gave it all to a needy cause. I'm expecting
that's
right,
Josh Norman. He went out and bought a bunch of, what would you call them, care packages for the immigrant children who have been kind of in detention centers.
Well, he actually did more than that. He and Demario Davis, who's the linebacker from the Saints, went down to San Antonio, Texas, and went to Walmart and bought up a whole bunch of backpacks. They're working with a charity organization, first of all. They're not doing this on their own. They hooked up with a charity whose goal is to help these migrant children. And so they went down to Walmart and bought up a whole SUV full of backpacks and put stuff in the backpacks that the kids need, supplies, food, entertainment stuff, and delivered them to a bunch of these unaccompanied migrant children at these detention centers. I don't think he was at the border. He's at where they were at the detention centers, which are not necessarily at the border. But hey, listen, I mean, no matter how we don't want to get into the politics of it here because I think we'd rather hang ourselves and do that. But no matter how you feel about all that, this is another example of athletes who are trying to do good and give back. And if you don't feel bad for these kids, you have no heart. And
yeah, once again, it would be really easy to stay in your very privileged bubble of being an NFL player, making a lot of money. It would be easy to not take a big stand or try to do things. But like you said, it's just incredibly nice that someone takes their time to go focus on these kids who really need it, who need the help, who need the attention, and are in a terrible situation. So I agree. That's a fantastic thing. Good news.
Well, let's just contrast that again with the negative stuff we hear about NFL players, not just Jameis. I mean, but there's all sorts of athletes that, are in the news for getting in trouble and doing stupid things. And it's just good to see, number one, it's good that Redskins players haven't had trouble in a long time. Keep your fingers crossed, knock on wood. But this is just the other end of the spectrum. It's the far better end of the spectrum.
Yeah. Amen to them. Anybody want to say anything else about Norman or Geis or any of the charitable efforts?
Well, I'd just like to say, if Josh Norman is passing stuff out in Texas, why didn't you show up at my house?
Yeah, what the hell, man? Come on.
Because you're not a small child? Probably.
I can play one on TV.
Yeah, I'll take a care package.
Yeah, okay. I'll take a care package. Yeah, as long as you're passing them out.
I'm just glad that they're doing it. It's just good to hear it. Sometimes you hear it, but you don't always hear it from your team. The level of impact that they do when it comes to charitable situations and events. So it's just good to hear.
Steve, homework for you. Find out who is the most charitable team in the NFL.
Oh my God!
And let us know next week. I don't know how you'd attack that. It might be a total sum of all the donations that players make, or I don't know if the team itself does.
Because all that is public information.
Yeah.
Figure it out, Steve.
I mean, obviously, the Texans are going to be up there because of the hurricane last year.
Well, I mean, it's not the Texans; it's J.J. Watt.
Yeah,
is up.
But I assume that's kind of how we're doing the math, right? I mean.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to count it like if we want to add up all the charitable stuff that all the players have been doing and give each team credit like that, then the Texans would have to be in front by a very long shot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's a disappointingly boring answer that you came up with really fast to my question.
J.J. Watt raised something like $35 million.
Yeah.
That'll do it.
Yeah.
That'll do it.
And he's got down here in Texas, he's got a whole organization that's building houses and stuff, because now he has all this money, he needs to do something good with it. So it's ongoing, and I think he probably got way more than he ever thought he would. So that's right. If you want a winner off the top of my head, it has to be the Texans. Alex is right.
Yeah. No, will it be the same next year? Probably not.
Unless, God help us, we have another massive hurricane.
Yeah, that would.
Because I was trapped in my house with, with lakes on every road for about 4 days.
At least the lake wasn't in your house, though, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Lakes, alligators, just roaming your streets.
I could have taken care of the alligators. I mean,
Well,
I have a rifle. Know how to shoot.
Right.
Will shoot alligator.
Hey, that's a cool thing to have stuffed on your wall.
An alligator? I don't know about that.
We've officially become a non-PETA friendly show.
Listen, I mean, if it's between PETA and the alligator in my yard, the alligator's gonna lose.
Fair enough. All right, well, let's move on from that. We had this past week a quite humorous article come out in the Philly Voice. So they've been doing this series of articles, top 10 reasons NFC East.
I want to hear this year.
Yeah, I mean, this is ridiculous. So they've been doing this series. It's top 10 reasons the NFC East teams are going to suck. So they've done it for the Cowboys, and they've done it for the Giants. The Redskins finally got their turn with top 10 reasons from the Philly Voice the Redskins are going to suck, or be a dumpster fire, I think was the actual word.
I think it's dumpster fire is what they call everything.
It's the 10 reasons the Redskins will be a dumpster fire this season is the name of the article. June 27th was the publication date.
Right.
So how do you guys want to do this? Should we just go through the damn list and just discuss one by one these things, or do you want to talk about the big things you noticed from this list, or how do you want to take it?
Well, I'd like to say, first of all, that I hate everything about Philadelphia. I hate the people of Philadelphia. I hate the sports teams in Philadelphia. The only good thing that's ever come out of Philadelphia, other than Alex Zeiss's family, is the Constitution.
What about cheesesteaks? Can we put cheesesteaks on the list of things that are good out of Philadelphia?
No, I can do without cheesesteaks.
What about Fresh Prince of Bel-Air?
Screw cheesesteaks. That was filmed in Hollywood. Don't kid yourself.
Fair enough.
That's true.
Okay, so I just... I don't know. Maybe I'm taking this too personally, but this really...
No, you're not. It's a ridiculous incendiary article.
Really, really irritated me. And it's just so very Philadelphia to write something stupid like this. You want to just run down these 10 real fast?
Yeah,
let's do the 10 real quick.
Okay. All right, so here's the list, and we can comment afterwards. Number one, number 2 is the Alex Smith trade was dumb. Number 3, the Redskins' instability at quarterback continues. Number 4, the Redskins' outside receivers are all potential, no production. Number 5 is Jordan Reed done. Number 6, the Redskins lack impact players. Number 7, the Redskins can't stop the run. Number 8, they also couldn't run it last year. Number 9, the Redskins have one good corner and then ? And then number 10 is, as always, let me check to see if Dan Snyder is still the owner.
Yeah.
So those are the 10.
And by the way, number 10, I went back and looked. I think they've done this, 3-5 years or so, and that's always number 10. It's Dan Snyder. You know.
Somebody else comment, because I'm going to be really ugly if I say anything right now.
All right,
go ahead.
I'll go easy. The first one, I just think the Dan Snyder thing is a cop-out by now. It's pretty lazy.
Yeah. I think we can all agree on that, definitely. I mean, honestly, the easiness level of this list, I think, is the biggest issue with it. They kind of went after the most easy topics they could pick. They didn't go terribly in depth. They even got the depth chart wrong in the cornerback argument they made. It's just they're weak arguments in general, I think. And like Jamal said, that frankly, Bruce Allen and Dan Snyder argument at this point about how well the team's going to do on the field is, like you said, I think Jamal said it exactly. It's kind of a cop-out. They're pretty weak arguments.
I would say generally so, but there are some things that I would say are probably correct at the same time.
I would agree.
Is the outside receiving core all potential? Yeah, mostly. I mean,
well, notice how that's qualified. Okay, they had to. They're ignoring the fact that Jamison Crowder is certainly a top 10.
Oh yeah,
slot receiver, definitely. Right? And they have to qualify that with outside receivers to eliminate Jamison Crowder being a part of this.
Yeah,
and so they're giving their readers the impression that there's no wide receivers, when in reality we have one very good wide receiver.
Yeah, we have one good slot corner. He's not now. He's yet to be 1,000-yard corner or slot receiver. Yeah.
And we like him, but in terms of calling that out as a weakness of the team, Steve, you kind of have to admit that it is a little bit. I mean, the receiving core is mostly potential. Right. We have one proven guy, but one proven guy's not going to be able to do it for the team.
Right.
I mean, that's going to get sniffed out by
I've said repeatedly we lack impact players. I don't look at this team as somebody who has any kind of superstar offensive weapon yet. I mean, maybe we'll have one.
See, this is an interesting one for you to call out. How are you taking that impact player? How are you reading that?
To me, an impact player is a individual who you have to scheme around as a defensive or offensive coordinator. And I don't think we have anyone like that. You can say Trent Williams is a great lineman, but great linemen are not really impact guys.
I mean, what about someone like Chris Thompson when he was still healthy last year and still rocking? I mean, would you call that an impact player?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
When he was peaking, yeah, but when he was after he was the focus of the offense, no, he became a 50-yard a game kind of guy.
I mean, he's an impact player. He needs weapons around him to be most effective. I mean, let's start at the quarterback situation. The Alex Smith trade was dumb, and the Redskins' instability continues at quarterback. The entire purpose of the Alex Smith trade was to end
to bring stability.
Yeah. He's got, listen, Philly voice. Alex Smith has basically a contract that locks him into the Redskins for 4 years. That's not instability. That's stability.
But we're assuming he'll be healthy for 4 years at 33.
He's been healthy, most of his career, The Alex Smith trade was dumb. Well, it's either pay Alex Smith, who's got the same or similar, or in some cases better numbers than Cousins, a fraction of what Kirk Cousins got from Philadelphia, from the Vikings.
Right.
That's not dumb. That's smart. That's
no,
smart.
Financially, it's a smart move. I don't think anyone. The only thing that sucks is that we lost a good corner for it.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, Kendall Smith, good corner, sure, but I mean, we'll be fine. Kendall Smith is not in the
Kendall
Hall of
Fuller,
Fame.
you mean?
I'm about to say
Kendall Fuller.
Who's Kendall
we
Smith?
didn't got so. I'm about to say Kendall Fuller is so far in his memory, he don't remember his last name.
I can't even remember who he is. That Kendall guy is not in the Hall of Fame just yet, and the secondary is not going to fall apart because Kendall Fuller is now gone. Would I have rather had him? Sure, but I don't think it's a dumpster fire because Kendall Fuller is not here.
No.
Just,
I mean, I think I do think that our secondary got weaker this offseason. But that's just
I don't know. Why besides that?
I was a big Breland guy, and
Yeah, Breland is. Yeah, but I mean, you lost Breland. You acquired Skandrick. Do you see that as a huge drop?
No, I see that as a huge drop. Skandrick's done in my mind.
Done is so harsh. Done is harsh.
I think Rashad Breeland is inconsistent, and he's hit or miss, and he's a little bit of a head case. I think Skandrick, is he going to be on anybody's list of great corners? No, but can he be an effective slot corner? Yes, he absolutely can. He's a seasoned pro. He's a solid pro. I think he's going to be fine at slot corner. I'm not so down on Orlando Skandrick as some others are.
Yeah,
for the role he's going to play. I don't want him being the number one corner, but to play a role and probably be the veteran slot corner, I'm fine with that.
Well, and to make good
decisions. I'd rather pay him. Yeah, and I'd rather pay him a small amount of money than pay Rashad Breeland some multi-year large contract. Is the other thing.
Exactly. I think his knowledge game is going to be really helpful. He's going to make smart decisions back there, which our secondary has not been great at in years past, making smart decisions.
I'm not looking for Skandrick to make the Pro Bowl, but he's going to be a solid contributor, I think. I'm fine with Skandrick.
Prove us wrong, though, Skandrick, and make the Pro Bowl, please.
I just,
how many Pro Bowls has he made? He hasn't made any.
I don't.
Not that I know of.
No.
Yeah.
Probably was on the bubble a couple years, I would imagine. He was probably close. He had 1 or 2 years when he was a top corner.
Oh, yeah. I remember 2014 was his best year. I remember this one.
Yeah.
Last year they made the playoffs. I mean, everybody, sucks to say, but everybody looked decent with Dallas that year.
Yeah.
Those bastards.
The other part of this, the run game. Look, I mean, yeah, it's no secret the Redskins have had trouble stopping the run, but these Philly voice morons are ignoring the fact that the starting group of defensive linemen, the starting group front seven last year was doing well before they all got hurt.
Yeah, it fell apart because of injury, sure.
Yeah, and then now they've got Daron Payne in there, so giving people the impression that the run defense is going to be a disaster, I think, is unfair and a bit incendiary.
Well, they ignored our draft and offseason for the most part in this article, it seems like. They just watched game tape from last year, and that's what they based this on. They didn't pay attention.
That's what it looked like. And, the fact that we couldn't run the ball, that's also no secret, Now, they had one stat in there that I didn't even realize, that we only had 3 20-plus yard runs all season. I had forgotten that or blocked that out of my mind.
I mean, feel free to ignore the fact that we drafted who was almost indisputably the second-rated running back by performance in the draft. Let's ignore that fact.
Right. And
just give people the impression that we're just going to completely suck in the run game.
By the way, the whole NFC East is going to be run crazy this year. If you start thinking about it, you got 3 really good young running backs. The Eagles have a platoon of good guys who are veterans. It's going to be a running.
Eagles might be the worst run team,
right? And they'll still be really damn effective.
Yeah.
So, temperature check then. Just curious for you guys. Now that we've finished this article, what do you think the NFC East is going to look like this year?
I think it's going to be close.
Redskins second or third?
It depends on Dallas, but probably. I mean, I think you're going to have a second and a third who are both around 9 and 7.
It's going to be close. I can see that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's going to be close again. A lot of people, now, I've been meaning to do this too. The odds makers set the Skins over-under on the season win totals at six wins. Now, I know for a fact we're going to get at least 7. So I've been meaning to bet some money on this one. But with that said, I think we're definitely get at least 9 wins. I personally put an official record down at 11-5. So I mean, we'll see how that goes. I'll stick by it. I'm not scared of it. So
you were being very positive.
Okay. From my perspective, I mean, we haven't done our prediction show yet. We'll get to that later. But if things go well and, we stay healthy and some of these guys that we need to do well, like Josh Doxson, for example, and guys start to do well, I think we can legitimately surprise people and be much better than the Vegas odds makers think. And by the way, the odds makers are setting lines like that to encourage people to bet. That's not what they really think. That's just the number they think is going to make the most people bet. So let's not pretend like that's, like Mike Mayock's expert prediction. Those are odds makers trying to encourage you to put money down. So it's a little different. But do you want me to lock in on to commit to an answer? I mean, I think it can go either way. I don't think the Eagles are going to be quite as good this year just because most Super Bowl teams aren't, unless you're a dynasty. So, I mean, I think the Redskins can easily end up second if things go well.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Alex that I think it's going to depend on Dallas because I think Giants are unequivocally deserve to be fourth. It's toss up in the next 2, and then probably Philly on top. Just curious where we were all sitting at this point in the offseason. Obviously, we will do more official predictions when we get closer.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on from that then, fellas, why don't we move on to our user polls and jump on into the position group after that? So we had more than one poll this week. Is that right, Steve?
We had 2 polls this week. And the reason we have 2 polls, unlike most weeks, is that we were kicking around ideas about how do we fill up some space on our site. And Jamal had the great idea. Let's do a poll and put it up there. So amen to Jamal for this. Oh. So the first poll we did is who is the best linebacker in Redskins history? Now, this started out as middle linebackers, inside linebackers, and then we realized we'd be doing a whole bunch of people a disservice. And so we ended up with just linebackers. And turns out there was a ton of controversy with the choices we put out there.
Yep.
The choices we put out there are Monty Coleman, London Fletcher, Chris Hamburger, and Sam Huff. So tell you what, let's have you guys do predictions and we'll get into the controversy here in a minute. So of those, Coleman, Fletcher, Hamburger, and Sam Huff, let's start with Jamal this week. Jamal, who do you think the fans would have voted for and what was your thought?
You're going to have to repeat the answers. I ain't going to lie to you. And I'll put this disclaimer out for everyone. Some of these players are beyond my time, so this may not be a discussion.
To be fair, I think most of them are beyond your time.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they're all behind. A couple of them are beyond all of our times.
Right.
The choices: Jamal, Monty Coleman, London Fletcher, Chris Hamburger, and Sam Huff.
I'm gonna go London. Only because that's the guy I'm familiar with. For the most part, so I'll just go London.
All right.
I'm probably wrong, but.
Alex, let's go with you next. What do you think the fans would have voted for, and what was your thought?
I'm going to say the fans are probably like Jamal. Twitter skews younger, so it's probably London. But I would say if I were picking, I'd probably put Hamburger. I think he was a career Hall of Fame Redskin, played his whole career, right? I don't think he ever played.
Yes, he did. He played his whole career, yes.
Yeah, so if you made it to the Hall of Fame and you've played 15, 16 years all for this city, I'm going to make you the number 1, personally.
Okay. And bringing up the rear here this time, Sean, what do you think?
This is like another one of those generational split things on how people are going to answer. I'm going to guess that people went a little bit older school and said Hamburger, but it's close. I get, like Jamal said, London Fletcher is the only one that I actually watched play for a significant amount of years, including until recently. So I guess that would be my answer, but that's purely personal. And
sure.
Okay.
Whatever.
Well, as it turns out, the voting public agreed with Sean and Jamal, and by a vote of 32% said London Fletcher is our best all-time linebacker.
Oh, I was guessing they were going to say Hamburger, so I was wrong.
Oh, I'm sorry. I blew it. Okay, but Jamal was right.
I said the public went Fletcher.
Yeah, I got it mixed up.
I went Hamburger.
Okay, so
I've been out of town, so you can't say I've been cheating.
Hey, you have a phone. You can.
I'm cheating in the fact that I'm just going to say, hey, Jamal's probably right about it.
Yeah,
Jamal was right about it. In London Fletcher, 32%. Chris Hamburger, 27%, came in second. Sam Huff, third, 24%, and 17% Monty Coleman. If I had voted, which I didn't, I would have voted for Chris Hamburger. I think he's by far and away the most accomplished linebacker the Redskins had, for the reasons Alex said. He's a career Redskin, multiple year All-Pro, multiple year Pro Bowler. He's in the Hall of Fame.
Long run too, especially for back in the day he played.
Right. Yeah. So I think Hamburger is. It's not even honestly close. I think Hamburger runs away with it personally.
Well,
make an argument for the last place recipient.
Monty Coleman. Well, thing about Monty Coleman is I watched all of this. Monty Coleman was a critical part of the Redskins defense in the golden era, and he has an incredible longevity. He was with the team for 16 years. He played. Wow. Up until Darryl Green broke his record, he had the most games played in Redskins history. Mm-hmm. He was never a consistent starter, but he was one of the keys to the defense at all times. And so it's a little bit of an accumulator thing, but this guy was 16 years, played in 4 Super Bowls, and was a key part of all of them. He was a monster there. It's just that the Redskins defense had so many players and so many people doing things that you didn't see him. You didn't see him making Pro Bowls every year, all that, because there were so many other people on the Redskins defense. But he was a really key part of the golden era Redskins,
and so he was also a guy who could play almost every linebacker position.
Yes, very versatile, and he did frequently play every linebacker.
Which you can't say about the other guys, I don't think. Maybe Hamburger. I don't know if he played outside ever, but
Hamburger played outside linebacker. Hamburger's another one, but I mean, to me, it's just not an argument. Right. I mean, Hamburger is by far the most accomplished. Okay, so here's the controversy, and this is a hashtag Twitter limitations thing. We had to leave out a bunch of players. We had to leave out Wilbur Marshall,
right?
In particular, most prominently, Ken Harvey and Neil Oklowitz. We had to leave those guys out because we just didn't have enough choices on Twitter. And some people suggested, why don't you have more than one poll? And we can narrow it down. Well, because we really didn't want to do that. It's just a silly poll.
We're not doing bracketing.
It's not that serious.
No.
So a lot of people, particularly Wilbur Marshall, thought Wilbur Marshall should have been on there. What I can say is I made the final call because it was 5:00 in the morning when I posted this and nobody else was up. So I included Huff over Marshall because Sam Huff is in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
They both played with the Redskins the same number of years. They both had a similar career arc in that their name was originally made on another team.
Right.
And so it's similar in that regard, but the fact of the matter is Huff's in the Hall of Fame and Wilbur Marshall isn't. This is a generational thing. He's way before even my time. And other people saw Wilbur Marshall play. I get it. But the fact of the matter is Sam Huff was never not going to be on this list because he's a Redskin Hall of Famer. So
right. And not to mention, he might be one of the most iconic linebackers in NFL history.
Exactly. Sam Huff was going to be on this list.
Right.
The argument would have been maybe Wilbur Marshall over Monty Coleman. But to me, when you've played 16 years for the Redskins and you have 3 Super Bowl rings, you're going to be on the list too.
And Ken Harvey was another one I saw people really talking
Ken
about.
Harvey has a legit argument.
Yeah.
Also played 5 years, made multiple Pro Bowls with the Redskins. We didn't include him. I thought his skill set was more limited than these other guys. He's a pass rusher first to me. I mean, when you guys do your list, but we left him off.
I mean, defensible decisions you made, I would say.
I would even say someone like LeVar Arrington, you probably could have made an argument for him being mentioned, but
I think LeVar needed to be with the Redskins more years than he was.
Well, he was here most of his career. I mean,
it ended badly. I don't know.
It did.
Okay, let's do comments real fast. We're going to go with, at Juju_804 first. He says, I suspect Fletcher because Twitter's but Hamburger had a Hall of Fame career all at the Redskins. Juju pretty much nailed it.
Yep.
Right on ahead. That's what happened. Jeffrey Bachner, forgive me if I mispronounced your last name, at J. Bach, J.A. Bach. Coleman was mostly a nickel linebacker. Huff was best as a New York Giant. Fletcher played a majority of career elsewhere. Hamburger's a Hall of Fame as a skin. He's our best linebacker. I totally agree with you, Jeffrey. You're 100% right. Hamburger made, this is Clark McMillan. Hamburger made the Hall of Fame for his play as Redskins. So most people, the comments skewed towards Hamburger for that reason. So I think a lot of people who didn't comment voted, because we didn't get a ton of defense over London Fletcher in the comments, but he won the poll.
And I'm kind of surprised by that we didn't get it because, you would think
I think
that
you guys
his supporters would be much more involved.
You guys are right. I mean, most people certainly didn't see Chris Handberger and Sam Huff play.
Right.
Some people saw Monty Coleman play. Everybody saw London Fletcher play. And let me just say, by the way, about Chris Handberger. I mean, I was very, very, very young. When I went to my first Redskins game, I was like 4 years old. Chris Handberger was my first Redskins hero, not because I even knew what a linebacker was, but because I had a candle. I had a Chris Handberger candle that, for some reason, that
like a prayer candle.
No,
like,
it was a number 50. It was a Redskins number 55 candle, and this was one of my prized possessions when I was 4 years old.
That's a weird gift, man.
God, you're a weird person.
I don't know where it came from, but I had a number 55 Redskins candle, and that was why I was a Chris Handberger fan. So I don't have.
Are you sure it wasn't two like five candles like when you're a kid on your birthday cake?
Oh, it was a Redskins player. It had a head and a helmet and a Redskins jersey on it, and it had a number 55 on it.
That is the weirdest thing.
That was why I was a Chris Handberger fan when I was 4 years old, even though I really didn't know even what he did. So
that actually gave me. We should do a show about the weirdest Redskins merch we can possibly find.
I wish I had the candle. If it's anywhere, it may be at my mother's house. I don't know. I haven't seen the candle in decades, but I'd love to have it back because I think it would be awesome to have it now.
Can't you guys just see Steve Frank do his hamburger candle every night?
Yeah,
as a little boy. Can't you just see that?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It was like one of those glass prayer candle things that you get.
No, it was a wax shape of Chris Handberger.
That's awesome.
Probably about 6 inches tall. It was a legitimate big Chris Handberger candle. I don't know who decided that was a good thing to make and sell, but I had it for some reason. So
nice.
There you go. Story time, kids, on the Hogs.
Very weird.
There you go. Okay, so we have another poll, though, right? That we should get to before we do the position group?
Okay. Next poll. A regular weekly poll, because if you guys haven't noticed, the history of what we're doing here is the normal weekly poll sort of relates to the position group we're reviewing. This week it's inside linebacker. So the question was, the Redskins re-signed starting linebackers Mason Foster and Zach Brown and drafted Sean Dion Hamilton. How do you think the inside linebacker group will perform in 2018 as compared to last season? The choices are about the same, not as good as 2017, a little better, or a lot better. And let's go opposite way here. Let's start with Sean this time. And Sean, tell us what you think and what the public probably thought.
I'm going to say, I'm so bad at guessing the public's opinion. I'm really bad at this.
You really are.
I never get it right. I'm going to say a little better, and I'm going to guess the public said a lot better.
Okay.
Really not confident in that, just saying.
We'll go with Alex next.
I'm going to say it's about the same, and that's kind of where the public will be too. We kept the same top two guys, so it just makes sense for production to be about the same.
Okay. And Jamal, what do you think?
It may increase a little bit. I'll explain later, but that's what I think. I think it'll increase a little bit.
Okay. Well, see, you guys need to listen to Jamal more. Jamal needs to go last every time because he always gets these polls right. And I don't think you cheated this time. I think it was legit because I know you were traveling for work, so you didn't have time to study Twitter. By a vote of 57%, the public thought a little better was the answer, meaning the group's going to get a little better. 29% of you voted for a lot better. And
so I wasn't that far off. I was close. I was almost right.
Close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades.
Well, someone give me a grenade, please.
And then 14% was about the same. We have a Hogside poll first here, which I don't think we've ever had this situation happen. 0 people voted for not as good.
Wow.
Like not one person voted for that.
Well, that makes
sense. Me. It's just surprising. We've never had a 0% before, which means it was a bad choice. In the poll. So anyway, 50 a little better was what most people thought. I would have guessed that because that's sort of the middle ground, so most people are going to vote for the middle ground. Comments wise, Jonathan Vitorisi, who's at JohnVit88, says with a full year out of Allen and the addition of Payne, the linebackers will have a lot more free space. Good comment. I like it. Yeah. One day at a time, who's at Ninky4. New defensive line, linebackers can get after the ball. They now should be top in stopping the run. I don't know about top, but it's a decent thought. Dean Fenwick, who is at Red Pigskins, says one of the defensive weaknesses was depth. We couldn't sustain a constant pressure on quarterbacks without rotation inside and outside. This season, we can solve that problem. We just have to choose wisely. And then he has a graphic thing here that says the Zach attack is back.
Zach attack is back. Nice.
Yeah, and then finally, we have just your average fly guy who is at MC Redskins. I think he was one of our T-shirt winners, wasn't he?
Possibly.
Anyway, he said the difference in the performance should be night and day. If our new improved defensive line plays up to or exceeds their abilities, Brown and Foster should be Pro Bowlers with the amount of sacks, tackles for loss, and turnovers they produce. So there is a guy who voted for a lot better. So
check out the sacks on those two.
One thing for sure, if Mason Foster makes the Pro Bowl, shoot, this is probably a top 10 defense all year.
Things have gone really well. If Mason Foster's in the Pro Bowl, things have gone very well, yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and we all know it seems like it's much harder for inside linebackers in a 3-4 to get in the Pro Bowl for some reason than
particularly if you have average talent like Mason.
Yeah. Truth.
Yeah. And I was saying I think it'll be a little better because now a lot of people made I said it was like 27% that said a lot better. If I remember.
It's 29%.
Yeah, 29%. That 29% is basically thinking a lot of what the percentage of the 50% that's thinking too. So it's like the defensive line is going to be much better, pending or barring injury, they'll be much better because of the roles that we drafted, and the people that are coming back from last year. And what that does in the 3-4, we all know now. But what it does in the 3-4, frees up the inside linebackers to make plays at the line of scrimmage or behind the line of scrimmage. So that being said, the production should get a little bit better. And even last year, before the injuries, it was already good. So who knows what will be who knows what will be compared to the last season's first 5 weeks throughout this entire 2018 season. Who knows? But, I mean, definitely for sure, if we're comparing 2017's first 5 weeks, first month of the season to this year's, I think we'll be a little bit better, and that's already a good thing. So, I'm looking forward to it. I'm actually confident in Mason Foster and Zach Brown, even though they have their issues in pass coverage. They're definitely players that should be respected in one aspect of football. So
I'm with you. I was all about Zach Brown. A lot of people seemed like they were ready to let him go or weren't too terribly concerned about it. I was always for maintaining that talent.
I don't know if anyone wanted to let him go. I think people expected him to be asking for too much money. Was the
too
problem.
much money?
Yeah.
There was talk that he wanted $10+ million a year.
But he got what, 8? He got or something?
Something like that. It was high, but it wasn't unreasonably high.
Hold on. I was in the wrong spot on my chart.
Yeah.
Okay. Zach Brown, $24 million contract, 3 years, $24 million. His cap hit this year is $2.73 million guaranteed. It's $5.5 guaranteed at signing and $10 million total, which means that the remaining $4.5 million guarantees at some point down the road. And the first day it's 2019 is the opt-out year. So after 2019 is when the rest of it becomes guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So that's it. You want to get started on the? You want to just get started on the?
Yeah. Let's blow through them. Let's do it.
I think Jamal, you're the one that wrote the breakdown. So I think you ought to start. But let's talk Mason Foster first. He's the signal calling middle linebacker. Your thoughts on Foster?
Well, not much has changed over the years. But it wasn't. But my opinion of Foster wasn't as low as a lot of people, viewed him over these years. I personally think that Mason Foster is an adequate linebacker with decent speed. He's not slow, like a lot of people think. He has decent speed, and he's physical at the line of scrimmage, and he also makes plays. He's an aggressive, instinctual linebacker when he's given opportunity. He can't necessarily do everything on his own. And just to make an example, this is like when you look at Will Compton and he's asked to be physical with an offensive lineman. Mason Foster can do that, but at the same time, that's going to be a wear and tear on him going up against linemen every single play. Sometimes you want those few plays out of the game where you're not always banging heads with offensive linemen. You get that opportunity, that free space to make whatever play you can make. Like let your talent stand out, and he does that often. But I brought up Will Compton because sometimes you see Will Compton when he's asked to do these things where he has to make a play against a lineman, you'll see him trying to go around them, maneuver and things like that, and boom, there's a 10-yard gain right where he's supposed to be. So Mason Foster is he's an average athlete at the position, but decent speed, a physical linebacker who plays with his head more than anything. And he can tackle, and he's a short tackler. So
yeah,
I respect that out of him.
Squares up very well.
Yeah, and in coverage, I would say he's better than Zach Brown, but I don't know how much credit that's really given Mason Foster. Zach Brown's not that good. Zach Brown would defend his coverage to death, but you look at games and you just know where the weak link was when you look at the film. So it was frustrating looking at him. We'll talk about Zach Brown soon, but Mason Foster, he and Brown needs help in the coverage game for the Washington Redskins. So,
well, and I think that's true about a lot of inside linebackers. The athletic tight ends are hard for anybody to cover these days.
Well, yeah, I mean, some are better at it than others. So, I mean, there's no doubt we've been weak at this for years. I mean,
and this is why we also are drafting these safeties, converting them to inside linebackers, or we're drafting these hybrid inside linebackers or linebackers because we need that help. We can't just draft these linebackers and expect them to cover. So I was just saying that to say that y'all are right. But this is why these hybrid linebackers are becoming a thing, whether they are converted safeties or whether they're actually just good at covering, but they're just a smaller size linebacker.
Yeah, and we'll get to some of those later in the breakdown. As far as Foster goes, I mean, I think he's a solid starter. He's had a weird career arc. He was pretty highly rated coming out of college.
Right.
And he really blew up
in Tampa after a while.
Yeah, he really blew up in his last year at the University of Washington, 163 tackles as a senior, which is just crazy. That is a lot of tackles. Right. He ran a 4.7 540, so he's not slow, he's not fast. Jamal hit it right. I mean, he's average athleticism. He's a hard hitter. He's instinctive. I think he's a solid player. Mm-hmm. He had 88 tackles his first year in DC. He's one of these guys that took a while for him to find his spot. Right. And people forget he was with the Bears for a blink of an eye in 2015, and they cut him before the season even started.
Right.
But he's a solid player here. And I think he's really stepped up, and he's gotten better. So I think he's probably not ever going to be a Pro Bowler, but I think he's a solid player, solid starter. And we could do worse than Foster.
I talked to him last training camp. Jamal, did you interview him too? I can't remember.
I did talk to him, but it may have been like in a group interview. I don't think I did the one-on-one.
Okay. Yeah, but you can tell when you're talking to him that this is just a really. Like
when there's a light on when the light on in someone's home, yeah,
right, exactly. He's got the football brain. I like to kind of look at it that way.
Yeah. So those of you out there who are peeing all over the thought of Mason Foster, I think that's misplaced. He is a solid starter,
and his social media, he seems like a great teammate to everybody.
Yeah, well liked. Yeah. I think he's solid. He can do better against the run. This year with the improvements on the defensive front, I think. So barring – we can say everything we say about the entire team is barring another health disaster. And it almost literally can't get worse, Assuming health, I think is going to be better. So,
sure.
Sean, you have anything else to say about Foster, or should we move on?
No, let's move on to the next guy.
Zach Brown is the next guy, 6'1", 250 pounds out of North Carolina. What everybody needs to understand about Zach Brown is this is one of the fastest linebackers in the history of the NFL, okay? Straight line, at least. This guy has legitimate track speed. He was timed at 4.28 in the 40 at North Carolina. He was a state champion sprinter in high school. He's running sub 4.5 now. Right. He ran a 4.4 440 at the combine. Elite athlete. He was a state champion. I didn't know this. State champion wrestler in high school. 52-1 in his last 2 years in high school. Though his only loss was apparently to another two-time state champion. This guy is a freak of nature athlete. Right. Jamal, thoughts on Brown?
Exactly. I don't think there's much else. You said it already. He's a freak of nature. He's the eliminator on the field. And for lack of a better word, I'll just give a description. He's the guy that just ruins the game plan for the offense. You have something schemed up, may have got past him initially, fooled him because he is an aggressive linebacker, just like Mason Foster, but can't get past him for so long because his speed makes up for his mistakes. And I think that's why, and Zach Brown has mentioned in a few interviews, his coaches prefer him to just roam free in terms of, like, if you feel like you can make the play, make the play. They want that type of mindset with the linebackers. Trust yourself, and Zach Brown does that a lot. And initially, anything in between in the box, at the line of scrimmage, beyond the line of, or in the backfield, is something that he can do consistently. And so basically, yeah, I do like he's a freak of nature. He's a speed guy, and just creates a lot of headaches for our offense. Just as physical as Mason Foster. The issue is the pass coverage, but in terms of how he impacts a offensive game plan, it's a lot that he can ruin based off the type of player that he is at the position that he plays.
What I love about him is he can be running a sweep away from Zach Brown. He'll still beat a running back to the edge. Like, it doesn't matter. His sideline to sideline speed is just incredible to watch.
What's amazing about Zach, when he was a state champion sprinter and he was running sub 4.3, he was probably at least 20 pounds lighter.
True.
At least at the time, if not more. The fact that he's 250 pounds and is running still a sub 4.54 is just incredible. If you watch his All-22 film, what you'll see about Zach is, Jamal mentioned this, he sort of has to be the weak side linebacker, the pursuit guy, because I think he's, if you want a negative, where he's less effective is when he gets caught up in traffic and he gets hit by a bunch of big offensive linemen. He's less effective there. So I don't think he would be good in Mason Foster's role.
No.
I think he's better where he is because his thing is speed. And if he's free to roam, I think that's when his talents are used most effectively. I think it's a little weird that he's so bad in coverage because he sucks in coverage. He's just terrible at it. But with all his speed, he really ought to be able to make up the gap when he gets burnt, and he doesn't for some reason. So it's really odd, I think, that he's that bad in coverage.
Yeah, I would love to hear somebody who, a cornerback coach explain what he needs to do to fix that.
Yeah.
It's some people just really don't got the awareness, like the surrounding awareness, or I don't know the type of term. It's not situational. Like, he's smart in situations, but just understanding what's around him, his zones, and just understanding his assignments. Like, I think a lot of things happen, like when you're in motion, when you send a player in motion, it changes up the assignments, whether you be in man or zone. Man is easier because you know who you got to stick with, but sometimes you change your when they send somebody in man, you get different, or send somebody in motion, you get different assignments. And I think that's it's a simplistic way of saying it, but your assignments do change based on where players go in the offense, so where they line up. So, and I think, like, the Rams is one of the best examples I can give, where a 60-yard play was created off the tight end coming in motion, somebody coming in motion, and he just didn't know who he had. He lost them, and he made up for it, hawking them down. But that's just one of the examples. He just didn't know who he had.
I think if you want me to speculate on why he's not quite as good in coverage, it may just be the way his mind works. Because if you play a lot of DB, and I've said before, I was a DB in high school, not very good at it, but you sort of have to have immediate recognition, because if you don't, particularly when it's man coverage, if you're facing up off a good wide receiver, you miss one thing and it's over. Right. Whereas if you're a weak side pursuit linebacker, there's time for you to recognize. You can see the play develop, and he has so much speed that he can then pursue and cover the whole field. Whereas there's sort of a more immediacy to things if you're a corner and you're in coverage, I think. So if that's my guess.
Makes sense.
One concern I have about Brown, I guess, he finally got his contract. Zach Brown has been pursuing his multi-year big money deal for 2 years now.
Right.
The Redskins finally gave it to him. There were questions about his work habits coming out of college. And Mrs. Brown, if you're out there listening, I don't mean to degrade your son, but there was a question about it. So I think Zach has to prove that now that he has this big deal, he's going to have the same level of urgency in his play. So if you want a question about him, I think that's the question to me. So
that's fair.
Fair enough.
Okay, Martrell Spate. Are we ready to move on to Martrell Spate?
Let's do
Absolutely.
Martrell.
Okay, what did I say? Martell? Martrell Spate. 6 foot, 243 pounds, 5th round draft pick in 2015. What do we all think about Martrell? And I realize we're running out of time, so we're going to blow through some of these quicker than we have.
Yeah, I mean, I think these are the top three, and then the rookie linebacker that we got. So we don't have to dive into it too much.
Well, I mean, Spade's a good depth guy. That's my sense of him. I think he's very much in that Mason Foster role of the larger, more physical back. Not back, inside linebacker. He doesn't have anything that stands out in terms of skill set, but very well rounded.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think he's a fairly well rounded backup. Now, I will say that Junior Gillette has been putting out all sorts of love for Martrell Spate on his Twitter feed this week and saying he's a future star and all that. And certainly Junior knows better than any of us. So take that for what you will.
Well, people thought that his rookie year, but then he got injured. And we didn't see a whole lot of him.
I mean, he's running a 4.840, 35-inch vertical, 243 pounds. I mean, he's athletic, but he's not a speed guy. I mean, I don't know what else to say about him.
Do I trust him to be the third guy?
Backup.
Sure.
Yeah.
Serviceable backup. Like there was a stat that came out, the PFF stat that said he was the most impactful. First off, PFF stats are just confusing in general. But he was the most impactful out of literally, I don't know how many linebackers, but a minimum of 300 snaps. So you can just go from there. It didn't really say much saying this how we seen him on the field. But on top of that, the play where he got his most burn was towards the end of the season. So it was like it wasn't really top competition. But anyway, serviceable backup. Who's a big hitter, physical guy. But yeah, I still don't think I think he plays most effective in a backup role because he doesn't have to think too much. He comes in for a few plays, he makes his plays, and then that's that. So I don't think there's much else to say right now.
Yeah.
How many?
Alex?
He had 70 tackles, I think, last year.
Martrell had 41 solo and 28 assisted, which is 68.
Yeah, okay. So
69.
I was close.
Nice.
Yeah, okay. So that's Martrell Spate. Zach Vigil is next, 6'2", 238 pounds, undrafted free agent out of Utah State. He's been sort of all over. He's been with Miami for a while. He's now with the Redskins. He's not that athletic. You could compare him to Will Compton in that regard. Smart guy, not athletic. Backup is going to have to fight. High motor. Yeah, backup is going to have to fight for a spot on the team. Does anybody have any wise words about Zach Vigil?
I liked him last year when I saw him practicing. That's all I'll say. I think he's a hard worker, and I think the coaches noticed it.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else have any Zach Vigil, anything? Otherwise, we're going to move on.
I do not.
Yes?
I do not.
Do not. Okay. Pete Robertson next, 6'2", 248 pounds out of Texas Tech, undrafted free agent in 2017. He was active for 4 games last year, has 1 tackle and 1 assisted tackle to his name. He played 5 years at Texas Tech, so he used his entire eligibility. Pete's problem is he's just slow by NFL linebacker standards. I mean, he could outrun me, but he's looking at about a 5-second 40 time. And when you're an NFL linebacker, that's slow. So that's Pete's problem. He's another guy's, he spent a lot of time on the practice squad. He's going to have to fight to stay on the roster. Yeah. So that's Pete Robertson. Josh Harvey Clemens I think he's more interesting. This is your hybrid guy that Jamal was talking about. 6'4", 230 pounds, 7th-round draft pick out of Louisville. Excuse me, if we recall, the reason why he fell to the 7th round, from his play on the field, he's much higher rated. But he got thrown out of the University of Georgia for failing multiple drug tests and other problems. And he ended up at Louisville. So this is a character question, guy, and that's why he fell. But he started out as a safety. He's a humongous safety that the Redskins converted to inside linebacker for the reason Jamal suggested. So, Jamal, Josh Harvey Clemens.
I like him. And I've liked him since the preseason, to be honest with you. I think one of the things that hindered him early on is that I don't think the Redskins thought initially the defensive side. I can't say Jake Gruden because he doesn't do that side of the ball really. But I just think his teammate or his coaches just thought he wasn't ready yet. They didn't really use him early on. Eventually, he got some burn in the regular season. I think that was like the middle of the year is when he started getting some play. And his reps increased towards the later end of the year. But I just think that he's one of the players that at the safety position when he played in the pocket, very instinctual too at Louisville. He can cover. How can I say it? Probably anything deep. He may have some issues, but short to intermediate, he's very strong. He's very instinctive and quick. So I just like his coverage skills. I believe he's able to cover tight ends effectively with us too. So I just think that he provides an advantage in nickel and dime situations. I don't know who that other nickel linebacker is going to be. If he's out there, but I know for sure that he's going to be one of them. In dime situations, he definitely has the advantage of being out there. Based off last year, the coaches may want to consider giving him more playing time in the preseason just to see how he'll respond with the first and second stringers. So I'm looking forward to seeing him in his development this year. I'm really confident that he can play that backer role for us. So.
Well said. I mean, I can't add to that. I'd just say that the character questions that followed him in college haven't been present here at all. He's had no issues. So hopefully he's passed whatever demons he was.
I'm with you. I'd love to see him
chasing him.
Get more situational, packages.
Right. He's clearly the cover guy, right? I mean, that's going to be his role. Sean Deion Hamilton, 6 foot, 235 pounds. He is part of Crimson Tide contingent North here. I wrote a really long piece about him this week. If you want, if you want details on Sean Deion Hamilton, read that. His thing is injury. He tore his ACL on his right knee as a junior. Then he fractured his kneecap late in the season as a senior. So he's had all sorts of injury problems. Thing about Sean Hamilton is he's very, very smart, both book smart and football smart. Valedictorian at his high school, and is known as the guy who was a signal caller for Nick Saban, known as one of the smartest linebackers that Saban's ever had. He is athletic, but not overly athletic. He is a classic inside linebacker, 4-3 inside linebacker. I think he has starting potential if he can stay healthy. This is a very smart guy. He is a mediocre athlete by NFL standards, but he's good enough. And because he is so smart, if you watch his film, which I watch a lot of it, he rarely makes the wrong decision. He's always there. I think one of his weaknesses that I saw was he gets beat to the edge sometimes because he just doesn't have the speed for it. I mean, he knew what he had to do. He just physically couldn't do it. So his thing is health, and we'll see what happens with him in the future. The last guy is Jared Fernandez, free agent out of North Carolina State, 6 foot, 227 pounds. He runs about a 4.7 340. 4-year starter, highly productive out of North Carolina State. His thing is obviously size. He's undersized. He's short. He's light. Jared is most definitely going to have to fight to stay on the roster. So I'm assuming nobody here has watched Jared Fernandez tape. So he is the end of the position group breakdown.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about Sean a little bit, That's
Yeah,
that's
go
cool. I would say I don't have. No, I say if you want to, I don't have.
Oh, I mean,
I know you wrote about them.
Yeah, I know. We're kind of running late on time here, so if you want to, I don't want to go. Yeah, just read it, and those are the details. So I think frankly, it was one of my better breakdowns, and so you can go there. It's on
nice.
the site.
You know where to find that, hogstie.com. Okay, cool. Well, maybe in that case, then, in the interest of time, like Steve said, we'll cut it off here today, but we will obviously be back next week. Anything new, exciting in your lives you want to throw out there to the people, guys?
I mean, happy 4th of July.
That's a great one. Good call. That's a great one, Steve. Yeah. Enjoy your 4th of July holidays.
And please, for that matter, don't JPP it on this 4th of July.
No.
Let's avoid that.
Yes. This
Stick
is very
fireworks
important.
in ground before you light them, kids.
We want to see you go into the 4th of July with 5 fingers and 10 fingers and exit the 4th of July with 10 fingers.
Yes, but if you lose a toe, that's a different story.
I mean, a token is a little bit easier to lose unless it's your big toe.
Right.
Right. And if you've started out with less fingers, I don't mean to discriminate against those of you who have less than 10 fingers now.
Right.
So just let's go into and out of the 4th of July with the same number of fingers you started with. Right. That's all my point is.
And if you grow 12, there's also that.
If you have 12, yeah, don't blow yourself up, people. That's all I'm trying to say.
A message we can all endorse. All right. We will see y'all next week then right here on the Hogstie. Come back to thehogstie.com through the week for more written content and see y'all next time. Take care.